to really do it justice. So today's the beginning of the Divine Audacity Sermon Series. A bit of a strange title though, yes, to a book? Divine Audacity. The word audacity is not commonly used as a compliment. You know, you hear expressions like, can you believe the audacity of that woman cutting me off with her car? Can you believe the audacity of that guy thinking he's more qualified for that job than I am? You know, we throw the word around like that sometimes, yes? So why in the world would Linda choose that for the title of her book? Well, she says that those pushy, irritable people are her kind of people. That she thrives off of big energy people who push the limits. Exactly the kind of people that she's used to seeing in Unity communities. You see, she describes divine audacity as spiritual boldness. Spiritual boldness, the willingness to do the uncommon, the willingness to stand spiritually strong. Isn't that what we're about in Unity?
Yes.
That divinely audacious people push the perception of limits. And we've had a wonderful opportunity to do that, right? This past couple weeks and this coming month at UCCM. To stretch ourselves beyond perceived limitations. For example, take Unity's teaching on faith. We think of the potential, don't we, in a situation? We think of the unlimited possibilities. And then we act on that potential. We act on those possibilities. Faith sees what it could be, knows what it wants, and then goes for it. We become the very living expression of the way we want it to be. We don't wait for it to become that and then act. We act as if it is already done, yes? So we're prepared, so we're ready. How audacious of us, right? I love our Unity teaching. To ignore the appearance of things. Ignore the appearance. That's a pretty audacious thing to say, yes? For example, if I'm given a serious medical diagnosis and I immediately say, I'm not even going to focus on the physical symptoms in my body, I'm going to tune into the wholeness of my being instead. Pretty audacious, yes? I don't know a medical doctor who would support that stance. Not many anyway. I've come to see that audacity is an essential quality to spiritual growth and development. If you're going to express, if I'm going to express my highest self, I have to have some boldness in order to do it. It takes no boldness to be a victim. And every one of us is able to be bold enough to do it. Do you believe it?
Yes.
To know the truth of our divine nature. To behave in integrity with that nature. To daringly force ourselves to ignore what is and stand in the possibility of what could be. Every one of us can do this. Every one of us has audacity. Every one of us in our families, in our workplace, in our spiritual communities can stand up, stand in that truth. For example, when people are demeaning another person, we can say no. No, we won't behave like that with one another. No. We can stand in the integrity of our nature. We can go against the norm, the mainstream, and be the change agent in our world. We can do it. What I love about the Unity community is we do not get caught up in the appearance, or mesmerized by the condition, or fixated on the external. Instead, we have the spiritual eyes to see what is real, to see what's real in every situation and in every person. Pretty audacious, yes? So to begin the sermon series on divine audacity, I have a few questions for you. Do you believe in essence that you're divine? Do you believe it? Do you believe that you are the image and likeness of the Creator? You are that now. Do you believe that the Most High is working in and through and as you? And most importantly, do you dare to be the light of the world?
I
am the light of the world, Carmen affirms. Do you dare to affirm that, as our Master did? Pretty audacious. Dare to be the light of the world is the subtitle of this book. Divine audacity, that's what it's talking about. Daring to be the light of the world means having the nerve to accept, recognize, and act from your divine nature. Do you dare to do it? It's about being bold, arrogant, and disregarding of normal restraints. Is it okay to say I'm the light of the world?
Yes.
In most circles? In most circles, it's okay to say Jesus is the light of the world. And I'm just a miserable sinner. hoping that on his tailcoats, the tail of his coats, I'll be brought into heaven. Come on, folks, get real. Go to your family today, say, I am the light of the world. My nature is divine. Jesus and I are one. The Father and I are one. I'm it. And see what the response is. Folks, this is about being bold, arrogant, and disregarding normal restraints. Jesus had bold, arrogant disregard for the religious authorities of his day, the rabbis, the scribes, the Pharisees. He basically told them, you're wrong. You don't understand. And they were wrong because of their concept that God was a fearsome and punishing entity. You see, Jesus was audacious when he called God his Father. See how arrogant and bold that was in his time? And when he said his Father spoke and acted through him. And when he went against the religious law of his time and he performed healings and deeds and miracles on the Sabbath, he was audacious. Jesus was audacious when challenged by the authorities of his religion about the fact that he was making himself a God. And you know what he did? He quoted their very scripture to him. From Psalms 83, he said, isn't it written in your law, ye are gods?
I just love it.
Jesus was audacious. I can't say that word, audacious. But I'm trying. He was audacious when he claimed to be the light of the world. He didn't think the folks around him thought he'd gotten a little too big for his britches. They killed him for it. Insurrection. The only people that could declare themselves as gods in that time were the Romans. He was crucified for insurrection, for saying that he was God. Okay? So just a few moments ago I asked you if you believed you were divine and if you dared to be the light of the world. Do you dare? Are you bold enough? Brave enough? audacious enough to declare it to be so. Well, for most of us, the belief system we grew up with is no different than what Jesus encountered. Most of us were taught about a stern, judgmental, punishing God. Yes, a God that would bless us or curse us, depending on how we behaved. But in unity, hopefully, most of us have come to believe in a God that is divine essence, universal mind, loving spirit, that's everywhere present and present in each and every one of us. Yes? Is that what we believe? Is that what we teach? Intellectually, most of us know this, right? And we believe it. But now what Linda is saying, it's the time to consciously act from this belief. It's not enough, as Carmen said at the beginning when she was giving her testimony, it's not enough to know it. Just know it. We have to act on it. So we can talk, but we need to walk. The principles. To acknowledge, admit, and allow the expression of our divine nature. That's what this book is all about. Most of us have not known and realized our own nature, our own divinity, our own power. Many of us continue to meander through life with this enormous power lying dormant within us. Linda tells us that being the light requires us to claim our divine identity, our I am power. Linda writes that being the light is our moment-by-moment choice to act from a consciousness of unity with divine mind. To act as if. And it is the truth. But we may not be at the level of totally believing it, but we need to start to act as if. Claiming those I am statements like Jesus did. I am the light of the world. I am the truth. It's a choice agreement of living, thinking, and speaking from a conscious awareness of your oneness with God. Whew. Divine audacity. And why do we do this? Because it's the divine self in you and me that accomplishes the impossible. VJ is not going to amount to much in a situation or a condition. My personality is going to get knocked off its feet very often by the overwhelming appearance of a situation. Only my divine self can achieve my heart's desire. It's the divine mind in me and you that heals the terminal condition. It's the divine mind in me and you that manifests money out of the appearance of lack and limitation. Do you know that? That's how it works. In one of my favorite stories in the Bible, Jesus is having this conversation with a Samaritan woman. You know this story? Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well. And he asks her for a drink from Jacob's well. And the woman engages Jesus in this theological argument about where to worship God. Should we worship God up in the mountains, or do we worship God right here at the well? And Jesus sees right through this woman. And he tells her that her issues have nothing to do with theology, but rather that she's had 5 husbands and her current husband isn't even hers. Well, metaphysically, folks, this is significant. Because this woman represents the longing of our soul, my soul and your soul, to seek an intellectual understanding of spiritual things. That's why a lot of us go to workshops, right? Into classes. We want to intellectually get it. So that's what this woman represents. The 5 husbands represent that the soul has been attached only to things that can be reported to it through the 5 senses. We're looking externally for the answers. going from one to the next without ever finding any satisfaction. You wonder why you married 4 or 5 times? Read the story, metaphysically. Whereas Jesus in the story metaphysically represents what? Our divine self. The divine self in me that says, the water I have is living water, and whomever drinks it will never ever thirst. Folks, to live in divine audacity means that we're no longer bound by the 5 senses to report to us. To live in divine audacity means that we instantly cross that invisible boundary and enjoy the unlimited possibilities and potential of heaven on earth. That is ours to claim. To live with divine audacity means that whatever is our mission is not mission impossible, but rather mission possible. Anybody remember that old show? I know I'm dating myself. Nowadays it's common to hear that we need to have a mission statement. Both companies and individuals have to have a mission statement, or they're encouraged to have one in order to come to a sense of direction. And Jesus had a mission statement. He did. When he declared, I came so that you may have life and have it abundantly. He trained a group of 12 men to help him carry out his mission. Our mission, folks, comes when we realize that the words of Jesus, that mission statement, the words, I am the light of the world, is also our mission statement. It is. I mean, you can have your own individual ones for your personality, but let's get to the divine self. All right? Just for a moment. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, identified 12 spiritual powers. He called them power centers that are located throughout our spiritual body. And he related these powers, folks, to those 12 men, to those disciples. In the same way that Jesus trained the disciples to help him carry out his mission, what do you think we have to do? We have to train our spiritual powers to help us carry out the mission to be the light of the world. That's what this book is going to do for us. That's what this sermon series is going to do for us. Wake us up to these divine powers. Faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, renunciation, and life. You know, sometimes we may feel we're just not cut out for this mission, BJ, to be the light of the world. But I'm here to tell you that this mission, again, is not a mission impossible. Because we have within us these powers, which can be accessed and used to achieve anything that we set out to achieve. What we were doing in that meditation with Lori was activating what power? Love. What would happen if we just loved what we had with our full energy, 100% of our being grateful, being thankful for what is, instead of coming from, oh, if I just had this, I'd be happy. Linda Martella. I'm running out of time. You with me? Yes. All right, go a little bit longer. Linda Martella tells us 5 things about these powers. Number 1, she says that all have one common source. Well, what is it? What's the common source of all these powers? God. Divine mind, whatever name you give it. For example, God's not a personality or a being that gives us love. God is love. God's the principle. And since we're one with God, we're the principle as well. God is the love that's in everybody, waiting to be acknowledged, activated, and expressed. Number 2, our spiritual powers are inherent in us. When we go to buy a car, some of us look for options, right? like power driving, power steering, brake seats, windows, etc. You know, very often when you get a car like that, what's it called? Fully loaded. Have you heard that? Well, we come fully loaded.
We are. Yeah.
With these 12 spiritual powers. Number 3, our spiritual powers are latent. I first was exposed to the word latent in the world of photography. You remember that? For the benefit of anyone under 25, there used to be this thing called film. You know, when you took a picture, a latent image was formed in that film. And it would stay there until you developed the film with the use of chemicals. Until that point, the image was invisible or latent. Linda writes that although our spiritual powers are natural to us, they exist in potential until they're recognized, activated, and developed. You get that? Number 4, our spiritual powers must be directed. That's what happened in the meditation. Our power of love was directed in that meditation beautifully. Thank you. You know, I can imagine Jesus had his work cut out with him with those 12 guys. Their background, their education was very diverse. Some of them were fishermen. Matthew was a tax collector. John was just a teenager. And he had to train these men. He had to show them how to behave and how to control their instincts. The same thing happens with us, with our spiritual powers. If we let love run wild without divine wisdom, what happens? We end up with 5 husbands or 5 wives. That's what happens. Zeal without wisdom and understanding can end up hurting people. I won't even get into the politics of the day. You know, all these powers, folks, need to be directed by our what? Our divine self, our higher self, the Christ within. And number 5, our spiritual powers need to be activated. Activated. Linda writes, activating our spiritual powers is a choice. Making the choice then, how do we get equipped? How do we get equipped to do this? To express these powers in a spiritual way? Well, the answer is we be. I be. You know, we're so busy doing. We get into being through practices that foster beingness, such as meditation, journal writing, yoga, affirmative prayer with your prayer partner on a regular basis. Any practice that calls the human out of doing into our natural state of being. Remember the scripture, peace be still and know that I am God. That's what I'm talking about here. I love this quote from the book. Whenever I shift attention from my personal self, BJ, toward the divine self, that is God, which is the real self, I become what God is. Divine audacity. I stand in it. I am it. I turn within to be love, strength, wisdom, life, and all spiritual powers. Folks, our mission is to be the light of the world. And it's possible. We're equipped to carry out the mission with our spiritual powers, to shine the light of our true selves. For we are divine. And when we're willing, brave enough, bold enough, audacious enough, there's nothing and no one that can stop us. And the world will be a brighter and better place because of our light. So let's stand and join together in singing the song about a big God.